Well, good afternoon. Welcome. This is KTN Business Today. My name is Peter Okaba, and your daily dose of daytime business starts right now. It is 3 o'clock. The markets have just closed here in Nairobi, and we are also to bring you up to speed on the stories that are making business headlines, not just here in Kenya, but indeed around the world. Well, what are the perspectives here today for you? Well, we will, of course, be starting off at the Securities Exchange to bring you up to speed on what exactly has been happening. But before that, just to intimate that later on in the show, we will be speaking about agriculture, smart agriculture. What is the perspective of technology and bringing Africans out of subsistence farming and bringing them into agriculture as a business? Two very able experts in studio to speak into that conversation. First off, of course, is Bernadette Murgo. She is the CEO and editor-in-chief of the Smart Farmer Africa. Well, that, of course, is a publication that is on several different platforms. She will be here to speak into that conversation around the conference that is being held later on to, well, educate the populace, the youth, indeed bring stakeholders together. Also in on that conversation, well, Boniface Akuku, he is the Director ICT at Calro. What exactly is the perspective of research around agriculture and technology? An expert perspective coming up in just a few minutes. Later on in the show, in the second part, we will be speaking to one Josiah Kimanzi. He is the consumer experience lead at a company known as GFK. They are specialists in research around consumption of media, the latest trends in, well, video on demand television in this part of the world. What exactly is happening? We will be able to bring you that perspective later on in the show. As ever, we want to start off with a quick look at the markets, starting off with the currency pairs. That, of course, is the dollar, the pound sterling, and the euro. And, well, tell you how they have been trading against the Kenya shilling and reacting in various ways due to market events. Well, the dollar pegged at 150, 170 buying and selling levels respectively. The pound sterling 134.79, 135.10 buying and selling. And the euro pegged at 118.16, 118.42 buying and selling levels respectively. Well, what is the perspective from the NSE? This is the latest performance numbers so far. Turnover, well, 195 million shillings worth of shares bought and sold, shares traded. That, of course, is 560 million shares there. The NSE 20 share index, 3,477.08 points, and 2.2 billion shillings worth of bonds changing hands there today. Well, most active stocks, these are the stocks that have been driving that trade. Kabasid, Safaricom, Kenya Power and Cooperative Bank. Kabasid moving 8.87 million shares. Safaricom 7.07 million shares bought and sold. In Kenya Power 3.75 million shares. While Cooperative Bank has moved to the tune of some 3.17 million shares. Well, what are the bulls and bears of that trading session? These are the winning stocks of the day. The bears, Olympia Capital, Flame Tree Group, Mumias and Kabasid. Olympia Capital up 9.43% to 2 shillings 90 cents. Flame Tree Africa up 7.81% to 3 shillings and 45 cents. Mumias trending upward 6.67% to 80 cents. And Kabasid up 6.19% to 12 shillings flat on the day. Well, what are the bears of the trading session? These are the shares that have shared value trending downwards. Athi River Mining, Cement, Samia Africa, East Africa Portland Cement, and Sanlam. Now, ARM, of course, they're reacting to the bad news that has been on the front pages of several dailies. 9.88% down on the day to 3 shillings 65 cents. Samia down 8.70% to 2 shillings 10 cents. East Africa Portland Cement down 8.33% to 22 shillings flat, while Sanlam 8% down to 23 shillings flat on the day. Well, those are the trends at the markets. We now turn to the stories that have been driving that trade. And these are the stories of the day. We start off with matters from the Central Bank of Kenya, where the pilferage of funds from public coffers is gradually eroding gains made in Kenya's financial sector. Now, this is according to the Central Bank governor, who says the country is now bordering on a slippery stretch with the growing cases of theft of public funds. His remarks come on the back of the NYS scandal that has seen at least 9 billion shillings misappropriated. Take a look.
All this have led, obviously, to a lot of losses, significant financial losses, but importantly, and obviously losses to the population, governments, corporates, and all that. But a significant loss has been the loss of trust. Suddenly, the professionals are no longer professionals. It used to be we could trust them. But now, after the loss of trust, you don't know where to go. So, as somebody said, the things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Then, of course, there's been other things. There's need, therefore, for emphasizing good market behavior by financial participants and professionals. The point is, not every professional is crooked. And we need to point out the positives that we see, because there are many strong, well-behaved, and trustworthy professionals. Secondly, we also need to revise the rules and regulations that enable good market conduct to exist.
Well, the push by the banks in Kenya to embrace new technologies such as cryptocurrency continues to be rocked with hurdles, as the industry regulator maintains that the risks involved far outweigh the benefits. Now, speaking at the Institute of Certified Investment and Financial Analysts event, Central Bank Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge reaffirmed his reservations on the alternative investment channels, citing a number of gaps that still remain in the fore. Dr. Njoroge, however, noted that as the banking sector regulator, they were working on rules and regulations that can be broadly used to govern cryptocurrencies, which have become a popular investment option for many Kenyans. Now, players drawn from the technology sector are now piling pressure on the CBK to fast-track these regulations to open up the financial space.
The point I'm making here is that it's not that we are anti-cryptocurrency. What we are seized by are the risks that are currently in this system. We talk about Bitcoin, right? Well, actually, let's begin. Cryptocurrencies, you have 2,000 of this out there, right? So it isn't just Bitcoin. And there's a sense that it's being done by who? We don't know who the person is. Who created Bitcoin? To this day, nobody knows. There's this sort of aura that, that there's a back door that he left, and he can actually go and get in mine more coins, whatever they are, right? We don't know how risky that is. We don't. That's an open question. It's like me telling you, just walk out and there may be a hole at the entrance, right? Just walk out. It'll be okay. Trust me. Last time I had people tell us, trust me, those banks went under. You see? And now we are cleaning up. So the impact on financial stability is a key concern. Now, we are working not independently. This is another point has not come through. It's not just a central bank working by itself. We are working together with other central banks around the world.
I think the main reason why there has been reluctance from the central banks around the world in entering the cryptocurrency market is there has been a piece that has been missing on the blockchain. And this piece is, the central banks are interested in knowing where those payments are going, who are people holding this money within the economy, in sort of trying to avoid money laundering. So there are solutions that people have been able to develop. Like personally, we've developed solutions to that problem that gives central banks around the world the chance to be able to monitor payments. They can be able to monitor transactions that are happening on the blockchain and know exactly the legal identity of people making these particular transactions in a big way that is going to solve the anonymity problem that has been in existence. So we think that central banks around the world might change their tone on cryptocurrencies once that solution is presented to them. So I think in the interest of the consumers, of people who are trying to invest money into ICOs to try to power blockchain projects, government should expedite the process of creating solutions. So for us as an entity, as innovators, we've been proactive in self-regulating and trying to come up with a framework and share with regulatory authorities so that they can be able to see what is happening in tech space and what is possible in terms of regulation in a way that it will not stifle the growth of ICOs, but strengthen the ecosystem and try to get as many ICOs, raise funds, and as well as protect the consumers.
Indeed, consumer protection is key. Now, Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD member countries have moved in to ratify a protocol which will legalize the movement of livestock across their borders. Under the protocol, special corridors in all the member countries will be mapped out and opened by mid-next year to facilitate the movement. This comes in the wake of last year's incident where Tanzanian authorities auctioned tens of livestock belonging to Maasais from Kenya after they strayed into their country. Now, these emerged during the start of a two-day IGAD protocol event on transhumance that was held in Naivasha.
All know that pastoralists have been crisscrossing these borders for many years, and they will continue to crisscross again when a situation demands. So whether there are laws there, whether there are protocols are there, whether there is any laws, pastoralists will move when it is necessary to move. So this protocol, which is now coming, will be there to support their movement, will be there to legalize, will be there to facilitate their movement legally across the borders.
The IGAD region hosts the largest number of livestock in the world, I should say that. We have actually over 520 million livestock in the IGAD region, and we are coexisting with our member states. And this protocol is going to address issues of cattle rustling. It is accelerating other frameworks, including the Mifugo Protocol on cattle rustling, on combating cattle rustling in the region. The protocol is also going to address the issues of insecurity, because the communities, when we have a framework, we shall have accountability. It establishes a way of crossing of livestock from a country to another, so that there is checking of how many livestock have crossed from Kenya to a country like South Sudan for purposes of water and pasture. And therefore, there's a database.
Well, moving on, the government has launched a work permit verification and registration exercise that targets all foreign workers in the country. Now, currently, Kenya has about 34,000 registered foreigners issued with a work permit. But Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says that thousands of others are not registered. The 60-day exercise targets the illegal foreign workers in the country. Foreigners will now be required to submit their original work permit, valid official endorsement on the passport, a valid alien card, official payment receipts, and the Kenya Revenue Authority PIN number.
If you issue a work permit or you certify work permits that you know are not supposed to be certified, you know we will take you to court. And this affects all of us. Is it fair for us to use our hard-earned resources to the tune of 360 million to buy air tickets for people who are in our country illegally to go back? It's not fair. So we're asking them, they also have 60 days to either apply for regular status and get a genuine work permit, or tell us goodbye and leave.
Now, Kenya has convened a meeting to take stock of its stance on taxation within the East Africa community and to check whether its engagement with other members of the EAC has been beneficial. The event, which brings together stakeholders from the various member states and branches of government therein, that our stakeholders will produce a report to be tabled before the Regional Council of Ministers and later at the Heads of State Summit.
Our stakeholders in regard to the common external tariffs. We're working on the final report, and so through the input from key stakeholders, we should be able to have our country position and submit the same to the East African Community Secretariat by the required timeline of 31st May 2018.
Since we adopted the common external tariff in 2005, when we entered into a customs union, we have not really had time to reflect on how much that tariff structure has served East Africa. So it's time to look at whether this tariff structure is useful to the rest of East Africa. I mean, all of us in East Africa, we need to change. So these country consultations are important, and I think from June, we will now be at the regional level to begin to negotiate on the appropriate tariff structure. What is clear is that the level of intra-regional trade has gone down, and it has gone down virtually for most of the countries. And even for us, Kenya, we have lost a lot to virtually all the markets in East Africa. Of course, overall trade to EAC is still around 20%, which is still important, but it's declining. And so we are taking this exercise very seriously, because we need to see whether we need to review it in a way that we get more protection.
The issue of the common external tariff, when it was first set in 2005, we had a very different industrial structure in East Africa, and we sought to use it to be able to expand industrialization, both as a region and also within the specific countries. Now, the rise of stays and basically the rise of stays, and a stay basically means request for permission not to apply the common external tariff, has revealed to us that the reality and the policy drive in each of these countries was always different, and therefore the CET needs to be reviewed in order to meet the aspirations of each country. So doing this 10 years, actually maybe 12 years since it was first established, it's a good opportunity. Now we know what our industrial ambition is like. So we know what it is we'd like to protect. We know what it is we'd like to liberalize. We know what are the sensitive areas, which are the ones that we have ambition in. So
well, dramatic video from the early hours of Monday showed heavy molten lava spurting some 50 feet, that is over 15 meters, into the air from a large feature in the Hawaiian village of Pahoa, the local NBC News affiliate reported. It is also reported that the first serious injury from a Kilauea volcanic eruption happened after a chunk of lava that had gone airborne sputtered onto a man's leg on Sunday. Hawaii has faced a new hazard on Sunday as lava flows from Kilauea could produce clouds of acid fumes, steam and glass-like particles as they begin to reach the Pacific.
Could be different.
It'll be different.
No. I'll load up and come down. Okay. That's fine.
Well, of course, that event there continuing to affect businesses and livelihoods in a major way in the South Pacific. Now, the percentage of business around the world with at least one woman in a top leadership position is increasingly rising. Now, according to stakeholders, however, despite this, women are still discriminated against and gender inequality continues to persist in workplaces. There is therefore need for change, though, as women meet to discuss ways in which they can overcome these challenges they have continuously faced in the business industry. Some also have expressed interest in starting up family businesses. Now, Julia Wino has more on that story.
So basically, Peter, what we're trying to address today, it's about women in business, where actually women are encouraged to take up the leadership roles that come up in business, and just encouraging them in as much as there are difficult situations that come up and pop up in a business environment. Women are just being told the only way they can do better is by actually coming up, talking up about the business, and also engaging other women who are actually much ventured into this area to actually kill up the gap that's in between women doing business and men doing business. And one of the interesting things that also emerged in this discussion, where the forum was being held at Villa Rosa Kempinski, there are a lot of family businesses which are also erupting up these days. And one of the key things we'd like to actually focus on and address as our first scenario is what it involves to have a family business, and what really needs to be done to ensure that it sustains for a longer time. And I'm glad to be joined by CAM Chair, that is Flora, who's going to help us have a deeper understanding about some of these things that we want to address. Thank you so much for joining us, Flora.
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning to you too. First of all, I'd like you to tell us, what do you think are some of the things that need to be done for those guys who are interested in engaging in family business? What are some of the things that they need to make sure they take charge of when they decide they finally want to do a family business?
I think businesses have been very successful in Kenya. A lot of people have begun businesses that have, the unfortunate thing I feel is the businesses have not stood the test of time. And what needs to be put in place for that to succeed is actually governance, where you have perhaps a board and you sort of remove yourself from being in your business. Because a lot of family business tend to have the founder member. We don't have too many businesses in Kenya that do have a lot of a lot of continuity. So we do need to deal with that, especially more African-owned businesses.
Thank you. What do we need to do as women to make sure that your business is out there, outstanding, you're doing so well in it, to also remain relevant in the market?
I think when you're in business, it's not about a woman business or a male business. It's about business in total. What are are you dealing with your customer? Are you dealing with your suppliers? Are you dealing with the community? Are you dealing with governance? So as a woman-owned business, you really just have to respect the rules of business and follow the principles of business, which include now governance. If you're talking about the opportunities that we give women, we do need to, give women more access to especially leadership positions, because there is a statistic that shows that towards the lower end of the ladder, we do have a lot of women. But as we rise towards middle and top management, there is a challenge. So we need to purposefully give women access to those opportunities, help them capacity build. But women, as came out in this meeting today, also need to develop their own support systems, be it support systems within their homes, be it support systems between the working environment, within the political environment. Women also need to come out and take responsibility for that. But access needs to be given, and they do need to be supported, because the equality has gone on for a very long time.
So a couple of times we've had women say there's competition, that some who feel like there's a lot of competition from the male side, and they feel like there's need of them to hold back, or they actually go back to their drawing board. And you see, if they go back to the drawing board, this actually might lead to them wasting their time, and then the idea goes to someone else, and they might not be able to venture into what they eventually want to be. So what message would you tell this kind of women?
Well, I think they just need to, to keep at it and find ways to actually make themselves relevant. And like I said, it's going to be about, giving them access, and also giving women access, and also the men have to need to give the women access, so that this conversation is not lost. I feel we've made a lot of strides, especially in a country like ours, where we're not only we're fighting also culturally, where the women were supposed to be seen and not heard. I do believe we've made a lot of strides. The opportunity is now, and all we need to do is step up to the table. Women also, when they are called on to serve, need to come up, and not only just come up and serve, but come up and be readily equipped to serve, but take on the responsibility. When somebody says, who's going to take on this position, don't shy away from it, take it. And as you take it, there's going to be a lot of support. Develop your own support, but be ready, be prepared.
Flora, you've been in the industry for quite some time. What message, or what are some of the lessons that you've learned so far?
In business, I would like to share with women that it can be done. And there's a lot of support out there that you can develop, but you really need to be prepared to be able to take it on. But the opportunities are there. We've seen now, 30% of all government procurement is being given to women. We're seeing companies are now actually interviewing based on, looking at the gender parity and making a conscious decision to make it. So the opportunities are there. Just come out and take them. It's possible.
Thank you so much, Flora. Peter, as you've had it, the basic thing that women need to do is just to come out, show what you have, and the world is not going to reject you. You're going to get a good support system, and do not shy away from actually saying what exactly you have, what you're willing to do. You'll have the support that you need. Back to you in studio, Peter.
Indeed, thank you. Of course, that conversation there revolving around the efforts that are being done to mainstream women into business and actually try to upskill them so that they can get into exports. That, of course, that event there having been convened by the American Chamber of Commerce. Now, one of the areas where women are doing quite well is in the field of oil and gas, and regulation and policies that govern the use of local liquid petroleum gas is unfavorable and still needs work if this sector is to curb illegal practices and promote growth and safe use of modern sources of energy. Now, this emerged on the first day of a training summit in Nairobi, organized by the Petroleum Institute of East Africa, PIEA, that is set to end on Wednesday and brings together stakeholders from right across the region.
The situation is quite bad in Kenya. There is no real statistics on illegal refilling, but we know it's quite important. And depending on the brand owners, you will see figures varying from 60 to 80%. So it's clearly a huge problem today in Kenya, and it's a problem of safety, because first it means that our consumers do not know who they are buying from, and illegal refilling could cause a lot of safety issues.
Well, we now want to proceed to a first quick break. Of course, after that break, our two conversations, one around smart agriculture, the other one around the consumption of media, are still waiting for us. Of course, that several different experts here in studio to speak into that conversation. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.